How important are the words spoken by our Creator? Yesterday I discussed that we will be judged by them. Yeshua plainly states this in John 12. He that rejects me and receives not my sayings has one that judges him. The word, or the logos, that I have spoken, the same shall judge him in the last day. So what was the logos that he was speaking of? He was the logos of Elohim made to be flesh. He spoke the words which teach the character of Elohim. He spoke the logos of his Father. He says elsewhere that he spoke nothing except that which was given to him by his Father to speak. He told Satan the same thing that his Father told Israel through Moses. And he humbled you, and he suffered you to hunger, and fed you with manna, which you knew not, neither did your fathers know, that he might make you know that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of YHWH does man live. What are these words that we are commanded to live by? Are they the writings of which is called the New Testament today, whose books were compiled by evil pagan men? Granted, they did include some of the true inspired writings of the eyewitnesses in this collection of books, and also the books that have lies in them also have some truth in them as well. And this is how the deceiver works. How else would he be successful in deceiving the whole world as a true eyewitness recorded that he would? John recorded this in Revelation 12. Yeshua obeyed all points of the law. He represented the unleavened bread of life that we are to feed off of. In John 8, because I tell you the truth, you believe me not. Which of you convicts me of sin? And 1 John 3:4, it gives us a definition of sin. It is transgression of the law. And if I say the truth, why do you not believe me? He that is of Elohim hears Elohim's sayings. He hears what he says. You therefore hear them not, because you are not of Elohim. Who is he speaking up to here? And just back up a few verses and it tells us. In verse 31, then said Yeshua to those Jews which believed him, if you continue in my words, my logos, then you are my disciples indeed, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. They were gathered together and listening to him, and they were believing him. He had just finished telling them, backing up to verse 26, I have many things to say and to judge of you. Even he that sent me is true, and I speak to the world those things which I have heard from him. And they understood not that he spoke to them of the Father. So then Yeshua said unto them, when you have lifted up the Son of Man, then you shall know that I am he, and that I do nothing of myself, but as my Father has taught me, I speak these things. And he that sent me is with me. The Father has not left me alone, for I do always those things that please him. We certainly can learn from that statement there. We should seek to only speak or think the words that are in agreement with him that please him. He explains that his Father is the one who is teaching him what to say. And we should let our speech be the same and make sure that we have his Spirit guiding us into what to say. And they believe what he is saying to that point. And then they start to add some things up and realize that he is telling them that they must continue in his logos to be made free and to begin to let their self-righteousness rise up inside of them. After all, they felt that they were the chosen because they were the seed of Abraham. And they thought that they were already good to go with their Creator, just as Christianity today thinks of themselves as good to go with no regard for his logos. Hypocrites. He agrees with them that they are Abraham's descendants, but if they were really children of Abraham, meaning the children of the promise, they would do the works of Abraham. What did Abraham do that was so special? Two things. He believed Elohim and he obeyed him. The discussion goes on and he tells them that they are of their father the devil, and he tells them why. In verse 43, why do you not understand my speech? I'll tell you why. Because you cannot hear my word or my logos. You are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaks a lie, he speaks of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. And because I tell you the truth, you believe me not. I interject here that too. I mean, he's calling them murderers, because lying is the spirit of murder. And I'll get into that in another segment, but it's wicked to even live a lie and just to see how the smallest of lies destroy relationships. What happened? They were believing him a minute earlier in verse 31. It is the same Hebrew word used in both instances for believe. What changed? Here's what Yeshua said that turned the conversation sideways. And back up and repeat verse 31. If you continue in my logos, then you are my disciples, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And they answered him. You see where they start to rise up here in their minds. We are Abraham's seed, and we were never in bondage to any man. How do you say you shall be made free? And he continues by telling them why they're not free. Instead of getting into the debate with them, he just says, tell you why you're not free. Verily I say unto you, whosoever commits sin, transgresses Elohim's law, is a servant of sin. And that servant abides not in the house forever, but the Son does abide forever. And if the Son therefore shall make you free, and remember who the Son was, he was the Logos of Elohim, shall make you free, you shall be free indeed. They thought that they were righteous because they kept the law on a physical plane. The problem was they were not letting the law transform their logos or their character into the logos of Elohim, which is what Yeshua represented. They also added to the law with their own righteousness and their own ideas of right from wrong and what they thought made them religious in their own eyes by adding their own customs and such. Yeshua says to his disciples in the Sermon on the Mount that unless their righteousness exceeded that of the Pharisees, they would in no way enter into the kingdom of Elohim. Why did he say this to his disciples? Because he was telling them to hunger and thirst for a higher form of righteousness, and this is not righteousness that comes from our self-efforts. The book of Job illustrates this well. The righteousness that we must receive is the righteousness of our Creator, and this comes from us allowing him to make us in his image. The law is a blueprint for this transformation into the Logos of Elohim, and the Holy Spirit is the translator that is needed to guide us. Yeshua is telling them that it is the truth that sets us free. The night before he was killed, Yeshua told his disciples in John 17, Father, sanctify them through the truth. Your word is truth. And this again is the Greek word logos. Earlier that same night he told them in John 14, verse 6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but by me. He is telling them that he is the truth that sets them free. And he is also the logos, he says. It is the logos that sets us free. It is being in agreement with our Creator as he was, becoming one with him. It is the logos that will judge us as well, as we read. The only way that we can become at one with him is through he and his Son dwelling in us, and which is through the power of his Spirit, teaching us his logos, through his word. That's how his Spirit teaches us. Can this happen apart from living his word? Absolutely not. Living his word is his divine and perfect righteous blueprint. It teaches us his character. It teaches us to purge out evil from our lives and to be holy. It teaches us to bring every thought that we have to be in agreement and in subjection to his perfect character and his perfect will. Can we be in disagreement with the judge and be set free? Is that what is said by Yeshua in the verse that we started with today? We'll read it again. He that rejects me and receives not my sayings has one that judges him. The word, the logos that I have spoken, the same shall judge him in the last day. If we reject his sayings, he says that we will be judged. I will finish off today with a few of his sayings that he gave to his disciples the night before he went to pay the price for their sins and for ours. In John 14, if you love me, you will keep my commandments, he says. And I will pray to the Father, and he shall give you another helper to be with you through this age, the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive because it sees not, neither knows. And the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, is composed of 7 spirits. We read about them in Isaiah chapter 11, and we read about them that Yeshua possessed all 7 of these spirits in Revelations 3. Which commandments is he talking about here? The same ones that he kept. He did not get rid of one jot or tittle of the law. He kept the Sabbath day when his Father told him to keep it, and the holy days in their appointed times. He lived the word all the way down to laws such as wearing fringes on the borders of his garment as a reminder of his Father's laws, as we are commanded to do to this day. In John 14, we continue. He that has my commandments and keeps them, it is he that loves me. And he that loves me shall be loved by my Father, and I will love him, and I will manifest myself to him. In verse 22, Judas said unto him, not Iscariot, why is it that you will manifest yourself to us and not to the rest of the world? This should be very important to listen to here, because it shows who he's going to manifest himself to. And if you are seeking to have ears to hear, you'll see that the world is deceived here, because where do you see the world keeping the logos of Elohim? He says, if a man love me, this is why I'll manifest myself to you and not to the world. If a man love me, he will keep my words. And again, it's the word logos. And my Father will love him, and we will come unto him and make our abode with him. In verse 24, he that does not love me does not keep my logos. And the word, the logos, which you hear is not mine. It is the Father which sent me. So he tells us whose word it is. It's not a different word. He didn't come with a different message. He was not a rebellious child. He was somebody who sought to obey his Father in every point of the law and commanded us to do the same. He is saying that the logos that he has spoken of and taught them is not his by itself. He was in complete agreement with his Father who was in him and took on his logos. In verse 15, chapter 15, verse 6, if a man does not continue in me, and remember, he was the logos made to be flesh, the logos of Elohim, he is cast forth as a branch and is withered, and men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned, referring to the final judgment, the lake of fire. If you continue in me, again, who was he? The logos made to be flesh, and my sayings, what he spoke, continues in you. You shall ask what you will, and it shall be done unto you. And I'll do another segment on praying in his name. It's his character. And he was the logos of Elohim. And that's the name he was given. We read that in Revelations. And verse 10, if you keep my commandments, you shall continue in my love, even as I have kept my Father's commandments and continue in his love. How does Yeshua describe the saints of the Most High to John? It's recorded in the book of Revelation, chapter 14. Here is the endurance of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of Elohim and the faith of Yeshua. If you want to keep thinking that you're good to go apart from the logos of Elohim, that the commandments and the Holy Spirit guide us into, you have taken a position that you are a better and a stronger man or woman than your Messiah. If you think that the Holy Spirit is given to you apart from his commandments, you simply call the words of your Creator in his Son lies, and you're about ready to find that out, because the wrath is going to be poured out for your choices. You are no different than the self-righteous Pharisees of the day, who, though they thought they were good to go because they thought that they were the children of Abraham, which in fact they were on a physical plane, but they did not believe Elohim and obey him as Abraham did. Therefore, they were not children of the promise. They cut themselves off from that, and they cut themselves off from the truth that would have set them free. Just as if you think that by vainly professing Jesus Christ with your mouth includes you in the atoning sacrifice of his blood, you are of your father the devil, because you believe his lies. You are blind and deaf because the logos of Elohim has no place in you. I suggest that you start paying attention to the thus saith Yahweh your Elohim scriptures and pattern your life around them. They are the same words that your Messiah lived out. His commandments teach us his logos, if we live them in truth and desire them. If we enter into a contract with him to become his family, he gives us his spirit, and so that we can discern his instructions, and they become our source. They become the bread that gives us the truth and that sets us free. And we are molded in his image.